Hello and welcome to Election Exchange. I'm Parikshit Luthra. 283 Lok Sabha constituencies have already voted in the Lok Sabha polls. With the first three phases done, more than half of India has already cast its vote. But the high-decibel campaign is only getting louder. Prime Minister Modi launched an attack on the Congress party and Rahul Gandhi, accusing two of India's top business houses of funding the Congress campaign. Rahul Gandhi hit back at the Prime Minister, calling his statement a sign of nervousness. So where do we stand in the fight for Lok Sabha? Is the opposition putting up a strong fight against the might of the BJP? Joining now is Congress MP and former Minister of State for External Affairs, Shashi Tharoor, who has finished his election in Thiruvananthapuram. Sir, thank you so much for joining us on the program. Let me begin by asking you, in a way, half the Lok Sabha election is done. The fate of 283 seats has been sealed. How has the election been for the opposition? It has been a volatile campaign from both sides.
Well, I think the signs are actually extremely encouraging for our side and not for the ruling party. What we are picking up from all three places, and I have been campaigning elsewhere since the Kerala voting, what we are picking up everywhere is that the BJP strongholds have witnessed a surprising degree of absenteeism and indeed apathy on the part of their traditional voters, whereas voters inclined to us are coming out in large numbers and with some degree of enthusiasm. So we are expecting that we will actually be well ahead in these 283 seats that have voted so far.
Right. I would like to ask you about how the South Zone is doing, because in a way it is being said that this election, the gateway to this election will be through the southern states, states like Tamil Nadu, Kerala. In Kerala, the BJP is saying that they will win at least 5 seats this time around. How do you see the BJP's prediction, their campaign?
That shows again how completely divorced they are from reality. There isn't a professional journalist in Kerala who would agree with that assessment. Everything points to a clean sweep in Kerala by the India bloc parties, and the same in Tamil Nadu. We're looking at 0 for the BJP in both Kerala and Tamil Nadu. We are looking at dramatic improvements in the performance of the Congress party in Karnataka and in Telangana. Andhra Pradesh, of course, it's much more of a fight between two regional parties. But with that exception, I think 4 of the 5 southern states, we're looking at a relatively poor show by the BJP and the NDA, and a very strong showing by the Congress party and the India bloc.
Right. We have seen some very sharp remarks by the Prime Minister accusing Rahul Gandhi and the Congress of Muslim appeasement. Today, there is a report which has come by the Prime Minister's Economic Advisory Council showing that the Hindu population growth fell 7.8% between 1950 and 2015, and Muslim population was up 43% during the same period, and they are blaming the Congress for this. How do you see this remark? Because it seems to be on communal lines, it seems to be polarizing the campaign and the election.
Frankly, it's of a piece with the entire approach of the Prime Minister to communalize this election in the most disgraceful way. He's using language that I believe has sadly demeaned the distinguished office he holds. I never thought I would live to see the day that a Prime Minister of India would say some of the things that he's been saying about 200 million of his fellow citizens in the most disgraceful sort of way. And I think this is simply an attempt to move the goalposts away from the real issues of this election, which is the situation and well-being of the common Indian voter. What has the 10 years of Modi, BJP, NDA rule done for the average person? When somebody voted for Mr. Modi back in 2014 because Mr. Modi promised a plethora of jobs, 2 crore jobs a year, and he still doesn't have a job 10 years later, why would he vote for Mr. Modi again? Why would somebody who belongs to the bottom 80% of our population, who have seen a decline in their incomes in the last 10 years, why would they want to vote for a perpetuation of decline? Why would those who had stars in their eyes about 15 lakhs of black money being brought back from Switzerland and put into their accounts, who obviously saw nothing at all coming from Mr. Modi, why would they want to be taken in by any further promises and jumlas? These are the kinds of questions. The election is about the ordinary voter. How has his or her well-being improved in the last 10 years? And for the vast majority of Indians, the answer is it hasn't. We're finding that unemployment is at record highs, that inflation has continued to hit and hurt people. The very government that promised to double farmers' incomes hasn't even raised farmers' incomes by 10% in 10 years. The government that promised a revolution in skill development has taken the skilling levels of our workforce from 2.3% to 2.4% in 10 years, 0.1%. This is the kind of absolutely shambolic situation that we find ourselves in because of the BJP's ineptitude in government.
Right.
Make in India was a slogan shouted by the Prime Minister. Manufacturing has actually declined as a percentage of GDP from 13% of GDP to 10%. So where is the success story for Mr. Modi to point to, other than in his own propaganda, his own press releases?
Right.
He's got nothing going for him, and that's why they attempt to distract the election and the voting public, and above all of you in the media, into non-issues. Mr. Pitroda says something in Chicago, that becomes a big subject of debate. Is this what matters in the election, or is the ordinary voter supposed to vote in their self-interest, in considering what's good for their well-being?
Right.
That's what we believe the election is all about, and on that basis we are going to come out tops.
Sam Pitroda is not actively campaigning for the Congress party. He remains a very important member of the Congress party. He has resigned from his position after making that remark that people in the South look like Africans, people in the East look like Chinese. Do you think that remark, because it's been picked up as strong ammunition by the BJP, by the PM, is going to hurt the Congress in this election?
No, I think it's a completely trivial issue. If an elder sitting in Chicago gives a personal opinion in a podcast aimed at Americans to simplify the issues for an audience there, how on earth is it relevant for an election in India? Number one. Number two, obviously it was a clumsy analogy. All of us agree that that's not the way to speak of our own people, and we all celebrate the diversity, which is what Mr. Pitroda was anxious to celebrate also. But it's also rather racist to assume that it's insulting to refer to people as resembling Africans, that somehow that's an insult to whom? To the Africans? To the Indians? To whom? I mean, there's this completely unnecessary racist kind of stereotyping also on the critics side of the debate. So let me just say, at this point, we should celebrate the diversity of the Indian people. We should celebrate the diversity of the world population. Whether you're African or Indian or Chinese shouldn't matter. You're all citizens of the world. You're all human beings. And at the end of the day, we should accept that neither of this has anything to do with the issues facing the electorate in this election.
Coming back to Bareli and Amethi, there was a lot of thinking within the Congress on what to do about these seats. Yes, Rahul Gandhi has decided to contest from Bareli, but the questions are being raised as to why leave Amethi. This was a very important battleground. It doesn't send a very strong message either to the Congress or to the opposition. If you were asked personally, do you think it would have been better for either Rahul Gandhi or Priyanka Gandhi to contest from there?
Look, I think the message is very clear that we want to give Amethi a representative who lives in Amethi, knows the people, has served in that area, and our candidate Kishore Lal Sharma has lived in Amethi for 40 years. The problem with Smriti Irani is that having defeated Rahul Gandhi by accusing him of inattention to the constituency, has been far less attentive than the people whom she demonized from the Congress party. So the fact is that we are offering a clear-cut alternative. Instead of somebody who hops in and out, makes speeches and goes away, you have somebody who lives amongst you, knows your problems, and will care for you. So actually, it's a very, very strong message for a local representative who actually understands the people he seeks to represent and who knows them, has lived amongst them, and can speak for them. I think you're going to be in for a surprise in Amethi as well. It would send a very good signal if a strong but ordinary party worker were to defeat a pirouetting minister who hops in and out of that constituency.
Right. As we move on to the fourth phase of this election campaign, the Prime Minister is now accusing Rahul Gandhi of a secret deal with top businessmen in the country. How do you see this remark? Because the Congress has also lashed out and sought an inquiry.
Look, I find it bizarre, to be quite honest, because as you know, these two gentlemen have been featuring regularly right up to today in Mr. Rahul Gandhi's speeches, attacking what he sees as the crony capitalist tendencies of this government and its favoured businessmen and friends. So for Mr. Modi to name those two individuals who are distinguished for their closeness to him and his government, and name them and accuse them of supporting the Congress party boggles the mind. I think it's an absolute indication of the desperation Mr. Modi has begun to feel as he sees the writing on the wall in this election and his flailing about for anything to hit the Congress with. Rahul Gandhi was quite right to say, in that case, please order an inquiry by CBI and ED into the finances and dealings of these gentlemen with the Congress party and with other parties, and we'll see what the reality is.
Right. My final two questions, Mr. Tharoor. One would be, how do you see the opposition coming together for the final phases of this election campaign? They don't have those kind of resources. They don't have that campaign might. But is the message really reaching the voter? Do you think a common narrative is reaching the voter?
I think the narrative that is reaching the voter now increasingly across the country, including in the Hindi belt states that Mr. Modi has been trying to polarize with his Hindutva rhetoric, the message that is reaching them very simply is, this election is about you. It's about you, the common man or woman. It's about you, the Aam Aadmi. It's about your well-being. It's about your issues. It's about whether you feel you have gained or suffered in these 10 years of Modi misrule. And I think that narrative, that questioning is coming up straightforwardly in our campaigns. We are saying this to voters across the country, and people are resonating by turning around and voting for us.
Right.
So my simple message to you is, yes, the BJP lost control of the narrative. They tried to distract it in the direction of communal polarization. I don't think that's worked. That is a tactic they have flogged once too often, and I think people are tiring of it. Instead, the narrative is now becoming, what's in it for me? What have I gained as an ordinary person in this country in the last 10 years? And isn't it time for me to do better with an alternative government?
If the India alliance is elected, if the opposition secures more seats in this election, what is that one change that must be brought about on the economic front and one on the foreign policy front, Mr. Tharoor?
Look, on the economic front, we've already spelled it out in our manifesto. We believe in a concept of social justice summarized in 5 nyayas. And we're going to get those programs implemented very quickly after coming to power in order to ensure that welfare benefits reach the people who are most vulnerable, most excluded, and need those benefits. On the broader national picture, I would say one thing we need to do is to undo the damage of the last 10 years. For example, we need to ensure that the laws that have been amended to make it possible for the government to jail anyone they dislike without bail, without charge, without trial, that has got to be stopped. That's completely anti-democratic and anti-national. The law they brought in that actually injects an element of religious identity into citizenship, that will need to be amended to take that point out. We will certainly try and see significant progress on other anti-people policies being rolled back by the government. An example is the Agniveer program in the army, which is destroying the professionalism of the army. So undoing the damage wrought by the BJP is going to be a very important set of issues for us as well in our first months in office.
All right, Mr. Tharoor, thank you very much for summing up the opposition's campaign, and let's see how the rest of the phases augur for the Congress, for the opposition and the BJP. Thank you once again for being with us.